Okay, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, here's the fuel line update of, or fuel system update, should I say, of this Mustang named Elena. So, I think I'm about done buttoning up everything I need to do on the bottom of this car to where I can get it off the rotisserie, minus the little things that I can do on the bottom, which are the adjustments on the suspension, which I have to wait till I get it on the ground for, you know, centering the pan hard here, locking the nuts down, adjusting the height here, adjusting the height on the coilers if I adjust that, tightening these back down, these trailing arms. I gotta make sure my length is right. I gotta have the wheels on to do that. Getting that bolt up here secured. I can't do that until this is on the ground and this is set where it needs to be. So this piston is supposed to have so much distance, so you're supposed to have it set accordingly before you bolt it up right here, because that's an oval shaped hole there. Anyways, I don't know what I did. So if you watched my other videos, you know that I bought some stainless ptfe line, bunch of fittings. I went cheap, got some eBay shit. Hope it holds up for the time being. And then as they fail, I'll buy a little bit higher end fittings, whether they be Earls or some of these right here. I don't know if you've seen these, that symbol. They seem to be better quality fittings. They're still China fittings, I'm sure, which most are probably are. But these seem to be built a good bit better than these other ones I got. So I'm using these few that I have, and then whatever I don't have, like the 45 here, I didn't have a higher end. So this 45 is a China one. This 90 is a good one, but only had 190. So the one over on this side is a China bing bong one. Anyways, so stainless 1/2-inch line runs all the way up here. It's got a grommet, steel flex will come through there. This is just a straight fitting. I don't have a straight fitting on there for whatever reason, but straight fitting here. I'll have to do some adjustment. I'm gonna wait till I get my braid on there to get my clamp, because I already drilled one hole right there. I don't know if you can see the light moving through it, but anyways, that was drilled and it wouldn't work because it ended up moving the line not centered up with this hole. So I'm gonna wait till I get my braid on, get it where I want it, then drill this front hole. This back one over here, or the feed line, is far enough back towards the rear of the car that I've got some wiggle room. Now this line, like I said, is 1/2-inch stainless hard line. It's stiff as fuck. Does not want to flex much. Unlike the brake line, that is also stainless, but it's so tiny. And it actually is so easy to move around. I mean, I can just, so easy. I'm tempted, I might end up having to put a clamp up here on this. Don't know, I've got one down here, way down there. I don't have one anywhere else. It just feeds underneath there. So I might end up putting a clamp here so I don't have that rattle. I probably will do that. Downside is it runs in between these little humps, and this is where the seat platform is. So I'd have to rib nut this, which is what I did on some of these anyways. Most of these, I'll walk around so you can see, is just Teflon or nylon nuts. But I have my Holley post pump filter. This is a 10 micron. Part number's covered up, but got these billet mounts. That's what holds my fuel line on the back half. Then I have these little billet, maybe Earls, I don't remember who makes these, but billet clamps for everything except for the brake line. Most of those are these little stainless clamps just because of the way I mounted them. Up in the engine bay, there are some billet aluminum ones. Anyways, what I did was I flexed off this filter up and over. This had to be rib nutted. Got the light so it'll focus easily. This is a rib nut here. Put a clamp there. It feeds around into a 90 that runs in between my crossbar and my sway bar, and And this is the sway bar mount bracket right here. And I just have these lock rings kind of on there with some gaps because I still need to set that once the car's on the ground. But it's a 90 fitting here, and it feeds through a bulkhead into the trunk. Here and here. So this will be my feed, my return. And my return is 90 fitting, loops around, clamps up there. Let me see if I can get to where you can see. And just comes around, oh, like so, to here. And this is a 45-degree union with a 45-degree ptfe fitting and just a AN nut on the hard line. So, passenger side is going to be feed, driver side return. And the reason I decided to bulkhead those through like that is, as I was starting to say, if you watch my previous videos, this was the original build idea, was to use this Holley Dominator. It is a part number 12-1200, and I want to say the reference of the model number is essentially 2 600 horsepower pumps. Essentially, I don't really know if that's accurate or not. I want to say it's around that. This would have supported up to around 1,000 horsepower EFI, 800 wheel horsepower, something like that. Anyways, it's 2 pumps in here. And the big drawback of this was, one, as most electric pumps work, you have to mount them real close to the fuel tank, and they need to be level with or below the fuel tank line. So that made it real difficult for mounting, especially since I had this crazy suspension set up. So I had built this bracket here. You see my holes are marked to match up to these holes here. I think I showed it in the previous video of it clamped, and I have some pictures of it, but I made a break, bent this metal, and this is 1/8 inch aluminum. And while it is aluminum, it is pretty rigid. This shit did not bend easy. Like, it is stiff as hell. I don't know if you can see the flex in that, but like I'm pushing down a decent amount, and that bitch ain't budging. But the idea was to bolt the face to this flange right here, and then this back piece, you can see where I marked one, would drill through this, which you see one of my holes I started, was gonna be roughly right here, and then we just bolt, and it would just have big washers to clamp it on, and I was gonna put rubber washers between this and the car on this top piece. The bottom piece was gonna be bolted tight, solid. This was just, the rubber washers would account for a little bit of tolerance difference on this. Since this is so rigid and it doesn't bend, I didn't want it to distort the sheet metal real crazy, but it would also damper some noise. You see the holes in the bottom, it was set up with this bolted to it, like so. And it would have worked great if not for this panhard bar that I feared hitting it, because it puts the pump right here. And I'm pretty sure if I hit a big enough bump, this panhard would, the pivot points right here, would bring that suspension up on that end, and this panhard would end up clipping where my fuel pump, or my fuel filter would be. The pump would be up here, filter back here. And if I moved the filter, it would have maybe worked, but I didn't want to risk it. I would have had to put the car on the ground, drill holes in this, mount it, push down hard on the car to simulate hitting a bump, and I don't know, it wasn't worth all the hassle. So the end solution that I wanted to go with on this car was going to be an aluminum fuel cell style, or fuel tank, with increased size and an internal pump. I have a friend of mine I went to school with that does aluminum fabrication. Actually does a bunch of fabrication, but he mainly specializes in aluminum tanks and aluminum work. He is excellent TIG welder, and from everything I've seen, he does quality work. He's gonna hook me up and build my tank for me. I've already ordered my pump hanger. It's a dual pump billet from ProFlow. It's an Australian company. In case anyone doesn't know, Australia makes some beast just gorgeous motorsport stuff. Like, they make some amazing things. But the downside is the shipping. It's freaking, it was like I want to say it was 150 for the pump mount. It was another 50 for the shipping. So, but no one I could find local makes one equivalent. I mean, I could buy a Holley dual pump, which is what I was looking at. They're $500 for the dual pump setup for what I'm building with this. So it's $500 for the billet setup, and it's got wiring just like this one, where you can wire it up each pump separately. So it's got 4 wires, just like this one. But it's only a single outlet on the Holley, which is what I would have preferred anyways. But the one that I ordered is a dual outlet, so I'll have to get a Y block to join it to feed into my bulkhead. But it runs out 2 different wiring for each pump, and the reason for that is I plan on running one as a street pump, and then like just daily driving constant on pump. The other pump is going to be rigged up to the Holley ECU, so it'll only kick in under boost situations or when it needs the fuel. So wide open throttle or boost application, it'll kick the other pump on. That will keep from running the pump constantly, heating the fuel, recirculating fuel that doesn't need to be circulated, etc. But also, I'm going to wire it up on 2 different plugs. Instead of a 4-pin plug, I'm going to wire it up on 2 2-pin plugs. So if my pump ever dies and would normally strand me, all I got to do is pop my trunk, flip the 2 plugs around. Now my other pump that's dead is now my backup pump, and I'd just limp mode it home and not build boost. So I want to say this is going to work out nicely. The downside is, like I said, the pump setup will set me back $200 for the billet hanger. It's $70 per pump for 2 Walbros. So another $140 Amazon primed for 2 pumps, and that's what, $340 right there compared to Holley's $500. So as far as that goes, I'm saving money. The downside is the fuel cell that I'm getting built is going to cost right around $500, but it's going to be baffled. It's going to be, I'm going to have AN bungs on the outside to run an external pump if I ever need later. I'll also serve as a drain. I'll also have him, or I'm also having him set up a, essentially it's like an internal surge tank. So not only is it baffled for fuel slosh, but it's also going to have a little built-in surge tank that'll surround the pump. So no matter how many G-forces are being thrown from cornering, if I decide to road race this car, or acceleration, whatever, it's going to keep fuel in this little bitty tubular area. But I'm dragging this video out, so I'll clean it up quick. The other 2 issues I'd encountered, one was my steering lock to lock. It was going to end up clipping frame rail. So I got online, started Googling around, and they sell these little things. I don't know if this is the actual part number or not. You can try to Google it. It's a little China one, but some people I've heard use PVC. This wasn't worth the time and effort it would have put into going to the store, buying a stick of PVC this size, and then cutting shims. The only reason I think I'll end up going PVC is if I need a real specific width, just to make one. The downside is I had to cut my boots off. These nice little metal rings that were up here, I had to clip off. I'll have to order more. But you extend the arm all the way out, and there's an arm on the inside of the actual rack that this female arm threads onto, and you just clip this around it, and it essentially stops it from turning that much. I got 6 of them, I think. I've got 1 on each side. Once I get the wheels on, I'm gonna test it and see where I rub. I'm pretty sure these are gonna have to move to up here somewhere. I'm hoping here won't hit, because my frame rail is too big to pass it through the frame rail where it would normally go. The only other way I would be able to do it, well, never mind, I was about to say, it's like through this plate. There's no way in hell I'm doing that. Or through this, which also I don't think is a great idea. I mean, I guess I could 90 it forward from here and loop it around the coilover, but that'd be the only other solution, would be to drill through this and run the 1.5 to 2 inch stainless steel bulkheads that I think Earl's makes now. Those are 30 or 40 bucks a piece. The last downside I have is this. I think I covered it before, where I can't get my reservoir on because of this lip and because of this inset. This is inset at least an inch, if not an inch and a half right here. Originally, I didn't think it was gonna be a problem. I thought the reservoirs would fit in this recess and the cap would sit essentially right here, but they're not quite that way. So Wilwood makes micro, or whatever, a compact master cylinder that has the reservoir built into its cast on the front. I may end up having to change to those, and I don't know what I'll do with these. They've already been mounted and it's too long. I've had them to return them, so they may just go in a box on a shelf or hit eBay, not sure. I tried to take the stud out because these are studs that are on the pedal assembly. Tried to do a double nut, pulled it out. They're, I'm guessing, red Loctite in. It felt like I was about to strip it. Oh, in case you're wondering, this is the, that's the billet clamp for up front. But anyways, my end solution is gonna probably be remote mounted reservoir up above these. This brake line's gonna have to move, which it was already probably gonna have to change anyways because I have to move these bulkheads because they're gonna end up hitting them, pretty sure. So I can't space these out with spacers because I can't change the studs out, so I'll run a remote. I'm pretty sure I'm just gonna trim this piece off, this little excess here, and leave this. I ordered a block of aluminum, or a bar of aluminum that's 3/4 by 1/2 inch. I'm probably gonna drill it and countersink, or well, I won't need to countersink it, but drill it for the remote, Wilwood's billet remote setup, and mount them just to kick it out far enough past this is what the aluminum bar is to do. And then run the remote reservoirs up front. I have to wait till I get it off rotisserie to put my hood on to make sure that the reservoirs will fit being mounted there and will clear the hood, because that will be a deal breaker. If that doesn't work, doing that, then I will have to change to those other style Wilwood Masters. But the trimming was probably gonna end up being, shit, that curves out. That might put a bind in that idea. I don't know. Sorry, I'm shitting on the camera here. That little curve out might screw me because I measured off of this lip here. But I'll see what I can do with it. I really don't want to shave all this off because this is all spot welded on this area. I really don't want to have to go back, grind away stuff, and re-weld because it's going to burn off my epoxy that's inside of this and everything else. So I want to try to avoid that at all cost. But anyways, that's where I'm at. I gotta go get some grass cut, so I think I'm done with this for the day. The old fuel tank here that I just epoxied and sealed won't get used most likely. My big 1/2 inch line 8AN cinder that I bought that cost me like $200 freaking. That is gonna be burned money probably, because I'm sure it'll be fun to try to sell. If anyone is interested in buying this, these are like $400 new, $300 for this. These filters are about, I think this one's the pre-pump, so it's like an $80 filter. 50, 60, 70 bucks, something. What? Throw me an offer. If somebody's interested in this filter or this pump, or together, $350. But I need to get some money back because right now I'm gonna be in a money bind. All right, that's it for now, guys. Thanks for watching. I made this video way too long. Sorry, I'm sure I bored you. Tune in next time.